we're gonna light a candle and we are going to tell ghost stories. My favorite part of the week. By the way, sorry for the delay. I just haven't really been feeling myself lately. And I just had to take a break from a few things. YouTube was one of them, but I'm back. And just so you know, I will always be on YouTube. I might have a break here and there for things, but don't worry, I'll always be back. And if I'm not, I'm probably dead. But don't worry, I'm alive. I'm alive. Okay, so let's get started. We are back for more Spooky Story Sunday. And this week, since I did miss a few weeks, this week we are going to be reading a story from Arkansas from yourghoststories.com. It is called Don't Play in the Woods, and it is by 7 Holy, 7 Soldier, 7. They must like 7s a lot, but let's get started. So, the story is called Don't Play in the Woods. My story takes place in a small town in central Arkansas. During the summer of 2012, I was hanging out with a couple of my friends in town. The day was very uneventful and boring, and my friends and I don't handle boring very well. We decided to hop in my truck and go for a drive and see if we could find a party or something going on that evening. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon when we decided to drive around. We drove around town for the better part of an hour and found absolutely nothing to do. So we thought it would be a good idea to start checking out the surrounding towns in the county. The closest town was Vilonia. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. A small town mainly inhabited by hunters and farmers, so we went there first. Once we got there, I immediately drove toward the outskirts, where it was more likely to find a social gathering of some sort. After a little more driving around, we decided to give it a rest and call it a day. On the way back, though, one of my companions told me to stop the vehicle because he thought he'd seen something of interest. Wanting more than anything to have something entertaining to do, I complied. I stopped, turned around, and drove slowly until my friend pointed out what he had seen. I pulled off to the shoulder, and the three of us got out of the vehicle to see a narrow, almost unnoticeable foot trail no wider than 2.5 feet wide. I looked at my friends and they looked back at me with intrigue and curiosity in their eyes. We talked about it for a few minutes, debating whether or not the trail was private property. In the end, we decided to see where the trail led anyway. It was around 6 or 7 that night by the time we reached the end of the trail, and at the end, in a clearing sat an old, structurally unsound-looking cabin. I got a weird vibe from the place as soon as I saw it. My friends, on the other hand, were all about going inside to look around. I objected to doing that immediately by saying, "What if somebody lives here?" But to my dismay, both my friends pointed out that there was no door. It was fallen on the ground in front of the cabin as if it had been removed and left to the elements. Once we got inside, all I could smell was dirt and mold and other earthy smells. We discovered that the cabin was bigger than what it looked like on the outside. There were 4 rooms, a front room, a kitchen, a bathroom, and a bedroom. Also, it wasn't empty. The whole cabin had furniture and personal items still. If everything hadn't been covered in dirt, dust, and other things, you would think that somebody did in fact live there. Given this, we each decided to check out a different room. Darren, the one who noticed the trail, took the front room. Zach took the kitchen, and I took the bedroom. The bedroom, like the rest of the cabin, wasn't at all outstanding. In fact, it was very quaint, as one would expect from a cabin. I got to looking around the room, picking things up and examining them. I looked around for maybe 5 minutes when I noticed a change in the air. Suddenly, the air in the room felt thick and heavy, and I found it harder to breathe. At first, I thought I was getting sick or something, but then I felt it. Someone was behind me, right over my shoulder. I could feel hot breath running down the back of my neck, and I could hear breathing. I turned around, but no one was there. But I could still feel that eerie, unsettling pressure. No sooner than I had turned around, I was joined by Zach and Darren, who asked me if I felt something like a heavy weight on my shoulders. I told them I had. I was about to tell them about whatever it was had been standing behind me, when what was probably the most terrifying thing in my life happened to me, the pressure returned and I felt my feet leave the ground. The next thing I knew, I was flying through the air and crashing through a mostly intact window. The combined impact of the window and hitting the ground knocked the wind out of me. I was conscious for a few more seconds, then I blacked out. I wish to this day I could blame what happened on my friends, but how can I? How can I blame someone for throwing me out a window when neither of them were standing within arm's reach of me? I have no way explaining this phenomenon, other than it had to have been an angry spirit of some kind. Maybe it didn't like me going through that bedroom, or maybe it didn't want any of us in the cabin. I don't know, but I did go back to where Darren found the trail a few weeks later. Against my better judgment, I started down the trail to the cabin, but when I got there, and this is the part a lot of you probably aren't going to believe, but the cabin wasn't there. It was as if the cabin never existed. There is no evidence that anything had ever been there, and I'm positive that it wasn't a vivid dream or anything like that because my friends remember it. I haven't had any paranormal or supernatural encounters since, and I hope I never do. The end. Okay, so that story, I do like a lot of, like, in the woods, you see, like, a creepy old abandoned building. Abandoned places are my favorite ghost stories anyways, but that's, like, it really is very eerie. Like, I feel like a lot of people have witnessed, pretty much everyone has witnessed, like, an abandoned place, like, deep in the woods. Like, if you're a hunter or if you're just, like, a traveler or hiker or whatever you're doing, we've all seen it. And if you believe in ghosts or not, you'll probably think it's still kind of creepy but cool. I really like them. It reminds me of the time when my aunt lived, I don't know if I ever told this story, but my aunt lived in a house, like, in the middle of nowhere pretty much, and it was by the woods, and me and my friend one time, we were there for a picnic, a big family gathering. Me and my friend, I brought her along, and we went trailing through the woods just to explore, and we seen this, like, creepy, like, old abandoned place, and we kind of explored it a little bit. We also seen, like, graves, like, old gravestones, or, like, not really gravestones, but, like, a memorial thing, you know, where, like, if someone wrecks and dies, people put, like, little memorial graves or, like, crosses there. That's what was on there. And we actually, the next day, we woke up with, like, this weird looking scratch, and it, like, matched, like, hers and mine. So it was kind of creepy. I don't know if that was paranormal or if we just scratched on a bush somewhere. Who knows? But with this website, you can't say if someone is lying or if somebody is telling the truth, but it's still fun to, like, go in and read them thinking that it's truthful, unless it's, like, something crazy you just can't believe happens and you're like, okay, someone's just pulling my leg here, wanting to write a cool story. This story is very detailed, but I don't think it's to the point of detail where he's faking it. I definitely believe him in this story. Of him being thrown out of the window, I've never seen anything like that, and I don't think anyone could ever, like, fathom the idea of that happening unless if it happens to them. So it's very, I don't know what to think of that. Like, maybe he's over-exaggerating. I don't know, but I do definitely believe that something creepy happened to him there, because one thing, when people write stories on here, it'll show, like, if they wrote any other stories, and he's only written the one story, so unless he goes into a different username, I don't know. But I definitely believe him, and I think this story is really interesting and fun. So tell me what you guys thought of the story. Did you like it? Did you believe it? Do you have an experience like it? And are you guys from Arkansas? Let me know down in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for more spooky stories. Bye!